For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tara Donnelly. I'm the Head of Communications and Partnerships at the Hunger Project Australia. I've been with THP for 6 years now, and I've been very lucky to see our work in Malawi, in Uganda, in Senegal and India, and to meet our amazing colleagues there and our village partners. So that's who I am. For those of you who are just getting to know the Hunger Project, I just wanted to share a little bit about us. Our mission is to end chronic persistent hunger globally. The way we go about that is a little bit different. We see people living in hunger as the solution, not the problem. And we shift mindsets so people become leaders for sustainable change. We believe that people, no matter where we live, are capable of the most extraordinary things when we are given the knowledge, resources and skills to do so. And you'll hear a little bit more about our village partners later on today. So to today, these have been, I guess you could say, interesting times, but also challenging and very quickly changing times for us all. You have no doubt, like us, been sort of grappling with what is this new norm, as everybody's calling it. And at times of change and challenge, we often look to our village partners for lessons, for inspiration, because they deal with change and challenge on a daily basis, and they do so with dignity, resilience, with persistence and dignity. So we've created this very special online workshop with one of our wonderful facilitators, Kemi Nekvapil, for us really to collectively stop and reflect and take stock of where we're at the moment, also take inspiration from the leadership lessons of our village partners, and then with intention design what it is that we want for ourselves and the world so that we all flourish in this next phase of life. So I think that's a really exciting thing for us all to be here together doing today, and to do it with Kemi. So for those of you who don't know Kemi, she is many, many things, and this is probably just some of the few things that she is, but she is an international coach, Federation credentialed executive and personal coach. She is a beautiful speaker and facilitator. She is a trained yoga teacher. She is also trained in the Dr. Brené Brown Dare to Lead. So she is a facilitator of that, and one of very few, if not, I think one of very, very few in Australia to be trained in that. She's also the author of 2 books, a mother of teenagers, a wife. This is one of the, and then the last thing, but like definitely not the least, an endurance athlete. She runs between 42 and 100 kilometre races. So she's many, many things, but particularly dear to our heart is that she has led several THP leadership immersion programs to Africa. So she really knows and loves our work. So we are in very good hands today. So Kemi, on that note, I will hand over to you to get us started.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you for that introduction. Now, I do need to say that I am in Melbourne and you'll see the sun is on me, and I'm so excited that the sun is here that I'm not going to move around to not have the sun on me. So if that irritates you, I apologize, but I'm saying exactly where I am. The sun will move. It is an absolute pleasure to be here, and it is wonderful how we can do these things online and there can be so many people at the same time. When THP reached out to me to ask me if I would do this, I felt, wow, what an incredible opportunity to create space for each of us to reflect on what we have gained from this time of being in lockdown. Now, I am very aware in Melbourne, in my home with heating and water and food, that I speak from a place of privilege. One of the most powerful posts that I saw the Hunger Project do during this lockdown time is from a doctor in India who literally said, if you can do lockdown, then you have privilege. It means you have a house. If you can wash your hands, it means you have water. If you can use hand sanitizer, it means you have money. And so I don't in any way in facilitating today ignore the privilege that all of us have to be in lockdown, but also the privilege that we have to have the space to reflect. Because for those of us in the Western world as well, obviously frontline workers they haven't had the same time that we have had. And I think for those of us that have been gifted with this time, we do have an incredible opportunity to really make something of this time. I have learned a lot from THP. So I believe that my first trip was as a participant, as a Business Chicks immersion leadership program. And I remember on the last day of that incredible program thinking, I want to work with the Hunger Project forever, for the rest of my life. And my dream was to become a facilitator for the Hunger Project. And I now have run quite a few programs in Africa and was going to go to Ghana for the first time this year, and then COVID happened. So it's coming, that's okay. My work with the Hunger Project will be going on for a while. So what I wanted to create for all of us today is to create a space for us to look at what we have gained from this time. A lot of people have said that it's been, you know, challenging at the beginning, maybe when we were all, you know, told we had to lock down, but a lot of people have also found things they didn't expect to find in this time. And through the questions and the facilitation that I'm going to take you through today, we're going to have space to work out what have we gained, what have we lost, what do we want to take into the next phase. And I'm not sure if any of you on this, it wouldn't surprise me if any of you on this call are also fans of Dumbo Feather. I'm a fan of Dumbo Feather, which is an incredible magazine, and they currently have a podcast, and they have been talking about this time in lockdown being a rites of passage, that it's an initiation for us as a global community, but also for us as individuals. And there's a time where we are all separated, which we were, and then we go into a bunker where we have to kind of be with ourselves and reflect. And then there's re-emergence, which is where we're coming to now as, you know, restrictions are being eased. So I need to tell you this because some of you, I don't want you to freak out. I can see how many people are on this call, and I don't want to see those numbers decrease as I tell you that through this today, we are going to go into breakout rooms. So this is an interactive workshop. Now, I'm an introvert. And when I first did my Zoom breakout room, I was told I wanted to press the I'm getting out of here button. I didn't want to be in a room with people I didn't know. But when I've gone into those breakout rooms, I've had such incredible, powerful conversations. So we will be going into breakout rooms. Siv, who Tara has already mentioned, will be doing all the tech whiz stuff behind. And a breakout room, for those who don't know, means that you'll be going into a little online room with 2 or 3 other people, and I'll be giving you some questions to share with each other in that time. We're also going to be doing some other kind of whiz-bang technical things, which I'm very excited about. So, which includes some polls and some other things, which I'll share with you as we go along. So, I want us to get the most out of the time that we have together today, which I am asking you to be highly interactive, which means putting answers into the chat box if you wish to, at random times. I can see them, Tara can see them, and we can answer questions as we go along if there's time, and also just to share some of the things that are coming up for you would be really helpful, and I'll share what I can as we go along. So, do you have a pen and paper or a journal? Someone, thank you, Jenny, for showing me your pen. I'm grateful, thank you. Jenny's in the Blue Mountains. It must be beautiful, even if cold, beautiful. I love the Blue Mountains. And I'm also going to put onto view so I can see everybody. So if you don't have a pen and paper and a journal, this is the time to grab it, because I'm about to ask you the first question of the afternoon. And the first question is, what have you learnt about yourself during this time in isolation? What have you learnt about yourself during this time in isolation? Now, if I was facilitating this in a room, I could ask you all how much time do you need? But I'll probably give you about 20 seconds for each. These questions will be sent out to you after this session so that you'll have them for reference, because I know that people write at different times, and some of you will need a little bit more reflection time. Also, please share these questions with people in your life. So number 1, what have you learnt about yourself during this time in isolation? And if you have something very, very clear that's come up, please put it into the chat box, because it gives other people an idea as well of what they may have learnt. So I do have the chat box, and I'll read out what comes in as it flows in. Question number 2. Oh, normal life is too busy, Lisa. Yep, thank you. Got that one. Question number 2 is, what have you learnt about the world during this time? Cara said that I love to bake. She's learnt that she loves to bake. Who doesn't? Who likes to eat the baked goods? That's probably a good question. So what have you learnt about the world during this time? Jade is saying that she's more introverted than she imagined, that she's enjoyed being at home. And that Nicole has said, and I've heard this, that she needs something to look forward to, future dates and events. Number 3, what have you learnt about people during this time? Kylie is saying we can make big systematic change with the right political and sociological will. And Leslie is saying that the world, Australia, can do the impossible, shut everything down. I think that's one thing a lot of us have learnt, Leslie. We thought we couldn't do it for climate change, but we can do it for COVID. So now we have to rethink what we can do. And the final question in this little section is, what has made you angry during this time? I'm going to share with you actually while you're writing what made me angry, this is a small anger. Obviously, there's lots that's going on in the world. I didn't realise that I can be a bit of a zealot when it comes to social distancing in the supermarket. I had no idea that I would have this internal rage that would sometimes come up when people got a little bit too close to me. But yeah, so what has made you angry during this time? There's a lot going on in the world right now. What has made you angry during this time? So I'm just going to put onto a wider speaker view so I can see more of you. And just raise your hand to me if you've managed to answer at least one sentence to each of those questions for now. Yeah, so I'm just going to give maybe 1 more minute for everyone to answer those questions. I know that with questions like these, there's always the first thought, and then with time, more reflection takes place. But if at least you can get a sentence or 2 down, that'd be fantastic. Because what we're going to do now is we are going to go into our first breakup room. Breakup room, that's not what I meant at all. We're going to go into our first breakout room, and this is how it works. So Siv's going to be doing all the stuff in the background, and what you'll find in a minute is that you will find yourself in a room with somebody else who is as committed to the Hunger Project or finding out about the Hunger Project as you are. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to share your answers to 1 or 2 of these questions. Okay, you're going to have about 5 minutes in the breakout room. So it's to share 1 or 2 of your answers to these questions. So Siv, let you take over from here, and I'll read out some of these. Kitty says the obsession with self, some people unable to see beyond their own box, their own experience, and the power of the system. Andrea says that fairness is subjective. And Rumour is saying the world seemed to show impatience, but also generosity from the most unexpected places, like the neighbour who organises ISO games. That's beautiful. We all need a neighbour like that. Yeah, somebody else, Petra, says when people have broken social distancing rules. And I think it's getting confusing right now because we're still supposed to be social distancing, but I'm not sure that everyone has that now that we've got a little less restriction. And Jeanette is saying, to paraphrase Dickens, it is at the worst of times, it is the best of times. That we are all connected and people respond powerfully to authentic leadership. And Leslie is saying extraordinary proliferation of conspiracy theories. Why do we need to make things so complicated? Very true. Oh, this is wonderful. Everyone's being so interactive here. So Maud is saying, I learned that I have the resources within myself and within my community to go through with something really difficult, but that aligns with my values. Yeah. And Dolly, life can be simple. So let's embrace these times that we will never, ever get again. It's funny, I was sat at the dinner table. I have 2 teenagers, a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. And my daughter went back to school yesterday, so the first time after all of this time. And I said to her, I sat at the table, we were sat down to eat, and I said, oh, here we are at the end of, and my daughter said, Mum, we do not need to reflect. So there you go. That's the teenager's response to having a mum as a coach. So at least I'm very happy that I get to do it with you. I'm going to try and sort of get in and see what their little reflections have been, but I'll do it when we're doing the dishes together or driving in the car. I'll try and slip it in without them noticing, because I know that they have gained a lot from this time. And Yariani has said, I have loved the simplicity of life and spending more time in nature, just walking, running and chatting with one person at a time. Yeah. The power of deep connection. Yeah, COVID-19 has exposed the broken system in our governance, hasn't it indeed? And I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Sarah Wilson, that some of you may know, the other evening, and she said that COVID has been the great uncoverer. In a world where we have all had to slow down, suddenly we've started to see the cracks maybe within our own lives and with our own families, but also the cracks in the system. And Suzanne, slowing down has meant that I've had the opportunity to spend time with the kids. Oh, we're going into break. Oh, something's happening. Yay, fantastic. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Great. Someone was in a room, but they popped out, apparently. I hope you popped back in, Gillian. So please, as people are coming back into the main Zoom room, could you put into the chat box what you gained from being in an online room and hearing what other people's responses have been, or what you enjoyed from that exercise? Just put it into the chat box. That'd be great as people are popping back in. Someone said that they were in a room and then they popped out, but I think they popped back in again. So that always works. Everyone's coming back slowly. So for those of you that are back and that can see me, here it comes, everyone. Hello, everybody. Wonderful. So please put into the, there you go. Please put into the chat what you got from doing that. So Annalise says, first time doing the breakout room. That was great. Much better than the breakout room, I imagine, Annalise. What else? What else did people get from going into the breakout room? So Maud is saying that similar experiences to the people that she was in regards to answers to those questions. Love meeting new people. That was so good. Great to connect with others and hear their views on the situation. That was such an experience. It felt like I was talking to real humans. Yeah, exactly. We are all real humans. It's hard to remember sometimes during this. Learning from another country and design not to return back to normal. That's so good to see, Lisa, because that's part of what this work is. That it's so easy for us to fall into our default normal. Erin, good discussion about leadership and lack thereof during the pandemic. Okay, great. So we are going to go on to the next question. So please everyone make sure, see we're jumping from analog to digital, just making sure that you're flexible with the new times. So the next question is, what has warmed you? What has inspired you? And what has brought you solace through this time? What has warmed you, what has inspired you, and what has brought you solace during this time? Somebody mentioned nature. That's definitely a big thing for me. I'm a big gardener, I'm a big walker, and just being around nature and green more than I normally am quite a lot, to be honest. It's important to me, but I even doubled down on that during this time. And anyone that's heard me speak or seen any of my other presentations I've done, I also found solace in eating quite a few crumpets during this time, because that's just how it works sometimes. So what has brought you comfort? What has brought you solace? And what has inspired you? Please feel free to put into the chat box if you have your answers quickly. Definitely my bushwalks. So somebody else, nature. Yeah. Bike riding, once again, out and about. Walking barefoot, Dolly, that's beautiful. Creativity, doing online courses. Haven't done that since high school. Wonderful baths, shiatsu, candle and soap making, journaling next to the ocean. Beautiful, and lots of dancing. I think dancing brought solace to a lot of people. Focus on spirituality, kindness to people, random acts of kindness and friendliness. Beautiful. That's great. Someone did 46 little paintings and is amazed at themselves. Rumour, beautiful. I'm going to read out what Rumour said. Kindness of people, random acts of friendliness, being in the garden more than usual has been the source of solace. I have painted nearly every day to keep a diary of sorts. 46 little paintings. I was amazed with myself. Sounds like you inspired yourself. That's great. Yoga, dance, learning and stillness. I've enjoyed the humour and creativity shared online, song parodies, etc. I would have to say too that one thing I clicked into very early on was the humour. That was what I wanted. That's what I needed. I'm sure a lot of people downloaded Monty Python movies over the time period of lockdown. Okay, wonderful. So the next question, what has community meant for you during this time? Now, some of you will be connected to the THP community, and maybe you've seen some of the previous events that they have done online. Some of you, this is your first THP event, so it's the community around you. Some of you may have found that you weren't necessarily connected to your community before the lockdown and then have found community during it. And some of you may even be noticing that community is more important to you than what you thought it was. I have been very blessed where I live here in Brunswick. We had a very strong community on our street before lockdown. And one of the things that brought me solace is one of our neighbours, when we could go back sort of with each other but have social distancing, we would have fire pits and we'd sit at a distance, but we would just chat around the fire of how we'd walk from our bathroom to our kitchen back to our lounge every day. Like, they weren't necessarily the most stimulating conversations, but it was nice to have some sort of human contact. So let's see, what have people got about from community? I've met my neighbours and I live in the city. My cafe community was severed for several weeks, devastating, stopped my writing. Yes, for those of us that write, I think I have a friend who's an introvert and a writer too, and she said, I miss being on my own in cafes. We are all in this together. I have been living here for 2 years and finally got to see some handsome guys in my locality. That's great. That's from Stella. Lockdown dating, that's great. I hope you're going to take some action there. Maud, more time to chat with neighbours, produce exchange from gardens. Yes, I know that Maud lives very close and near me, and there's a lot of zucchinis that get passed over fences where I live. Shop for my elderly neighbours each week, and we're so much more in touch than when we ever used to be. More time to connect with neighbours. Actually, just give a hand a wave if you've connected with your neighbours in a way that you hadn't before. Okay. And keep your hands up if you think that now knowing your neighbours, to whatever label that is, has actually added to your life. Just keep your hand. Just knowing who you live with, literally. Yeah, great, fantastic. In my suburb, I have loved how the community has contributed to the COVID, to follow COVID restrictions. That's true. Great. So now I just want to chat to you a little bit about, the role that the Hunger Project plays in community and how that works. And one of the reasons that I was attracted to the work of the Hunger Project is, one, being a Black woman, I wanted to be involved in an organisation that really held equality with the people that they work with, not for, that they work with, and that could see that there's a level of leadership that happens in a village, on the ground floor, as it were, that teaches us huge lessons over here. And it's very much community driven. So the Hunger Project model, and I know that, Tara could probably speak more to this, and you can find out more about this on the Hunger Project website, is that the model is that it takes a community to change their mindset. And it can start with an individual or a few individuals, but eventually as one individual speaks to another individual, as one individual change their mindsets, they then share that mindset change with another individual who then shares it with the next, who shares it with the next, who shares it with the next. And therefore what you have is community leadership. And with all the communities that the Hunger Project work with, it is the communities that drive the change they want to need, by the change they want to make. By no means do the Hunger Project go in and say, we know what you need and we are going to provide it for you. The Hunger Project says, what is it you need? What are the limiting beliefs that you have that will have you not carry out the visions that you have for yourself and your communities and your families? So that's why I wanted to ask some questions around community, because sometimes in the Western world, we think we have so much. And I can say, for anyone that's been on a Hunger Project trip, whether as a participant or as a team member, or anyone that's been to any of these countries, that, are termed developing, but it developed in so many ways. One thing they have on their side is connection to community and connection to family. And I think that's one of the things that we that can be so disconnected have gained during this time in COVID. And that's something that I really hope that each one of us maintains as we, you know, get more freedom and we're allowed to be out there, that we still stay connected to our neighbours and to our communities, because it's important work to see each other, to see the people that we live with and work with on a day-to-day basis. So now are we going back out into breakout rooms? So now we've done it once, okay? So get ready, because you're now going to go into breakout rooms, and I imagine not with the same people, but with different people. And as that is happening, I shall read out some of the things that are here. Our rumour says that I've actually started a community program out of my garden during isolation, Honey Eater, Sustainable Backyard Initiative, to inform people about how they could be a little less food insecure if they put some time into the backyard that they have. That's beautiful. Who here has been planting things? Put your hat, wave. Yeah, lots and lots and lots of things.
Kemi?
Yes.
Sorry, it's Tara. Can I jump in? I think actually we've done the Zoom rooms and then we're going to do the poll.
Now, I was very excited about breakout rooms again. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So
we've had our time.
We're going to do the poll.
Excellent, yes.
What I'm going to ask everyone to do is to get out their phone. Okay. And I think we're going to have on the screen now what it is that you need to do. So once it comes up into the screen, we're going to ask you to put this link into your phone. Okay, so it's pollev.com, and then enter the Hunger Pro 827. And then once you're in, I'm asking you to answer these questions. And what's going to happen, which is I'm very excited about, as you answer and you put your words into your phone, a word cloud is going to be created on the screen. Okay, so the question is, if you could describe your life pre-COVID or pre-lockdown in 3 words, what words would you use? So if you were to describe your life pre-COVID in 3 words, what words would you use? Busy. And I'm going to let you know that the more people that say one particular word, the word will get bigger on the screen. So then we'll have a real idea of how people's lives were pre-COVID. So we've got busy, frantic, stressed. I can feel my heartbeat getting faster just reading them. Rushed, comfortable, which can be, you know, depending on where you're looking from, comfortable. Rushed, hectic, frantic, running around, scared, happy, angry, lazy, exhausted, autopilot, hurried around, exhausting. Busy is definitely winning by a long. Tired. Oh, someone was great as well. It's fantastic. And that's the thing. Life was what it was before, and it's going to be different for everyone. So the poll is full, I'm told. So everyone can see the screen. I think we have a unanimous winner of what life was like pre-COVID. So now my next question to you is, what 3 words do you want to describe your life in the next phase? What 3 words do you want to describe your life in the next phase? And once again, type those words: connected, intentional, balanced, measured, fulfilled, hope, appreciative, authentic, purposeful, simple, slower, considered, fulfilled, adventurous, leadership, slow, loved, environmental, humble. Wow. So connected isn't that interesting when we look at, I'm not sure if any more's coming in, but I'm also interested to see if, okay, the poll is full again. Thank you everyone for being so interactive and actually connecting with this. That's great that the poll is full, because I feel that then we do have a really great representation of what people are putting in. So busy was definitely the winner in life pre-lockdown, and connected is definitely the winner in what we want post-lockdown. And it's actually really hard to be both of those things, isn't it? It's hard to be busy and connected at the same time. They're kind of polar opposites. I'm interested to hear what you think about those words and what that means for you to see those words there. If you could just put that into the chat box. So just while people are doing that, Leslie has put that she did plant things, but the possums ate them. Well, possums need to eat, you know, that's the way that it goes. And a few people have commented that the poll has been full, so that makes sense. But when you see that, what does that bring up for you? So for a lot of people, life was very busy, and now what they've realized is they want connection post lockdown. So next question, as people are typing in, is, and this, we're going back to analog now. So phones can go down, back to analog. Very flexible. You're very flexible participants. It's wonderful to see how you can jump. So next question. Has this time allowed you to gain clarity on your priorities? And if so, what would you say are now the top 3 priorities in your life? And they may be the same as pre-lockdown, and if so, that's great. They don't have to be different, but one of the words that came up on that word cloud was intentional. And it's easy to say that we prioritize things, but I sometimes will talk to a client and I'll say, if a fly was watching your daily actions, what would the fly say your priorities are? I don't know why I chose a fly, but that's just what I chose. And that's the thing, isn't it? That we can have an intention, we can have a value, and yet we find it hard to carry it out. Family, mindful, to be caring and inclusive. Family, making a difference, well-being, to make a positive difference in the world. To have realistic expectations. No, we don't want realistic expectations. We want completely unrealistic expectations. Family, love and health, balance, family, purpose, family, making a difference. There is definitely a theme to people that come onto the Hunger Project Zoom events. So next question is, if you were to create, actually, I'll just give you a little bit of context of why I'm asking now questions around vision. There's a process that the Hunger Project do called the Vision, Commitment and Action Workshop. It is I believe it's the first workshop that the village partners do when they get involved in the Hunger Project work. And what they do is they create a vision for their lives. And then they look, are they committed? And then they look at the actions that they need to take to be committed to that. So these questions I've created today have come from me, but they're also loosely based on this idea of what does it take to create a vision? What do we need to do to commit to that vision, and what are the actions that we need to take? So my question to you now is, if you were to write a 1 to 3 word sentence, or 1 sentence or 3 sentences of your vision for the next stage, what would you write? So if you were to write 1 to 3 sentences on your vision for the next phase, what would you write? So someone here, Nicole, has got to impact more people in the world. So that could be a 1 word. My vision is to impact more people in the world. Kitty has said, sharing my voice to create change. That could also be another sentence. My vision is to share my voice to create change. Suzanne's vision could be to be connected, to find balance, and to be brave. Okay, so for some of you, you already have your vision in what you have just said your priorities are, which would make sense. That is the idea of the questions being in this order. Urani may say, my vision is to be there for my family, to experience love and to be healthy, or to support health in others. Okay, great. One of the mindset shifts that we make ourselves as participants within the Hunger Project programs and within the team and with our village partners on the ground is to change I can't to I can. Okay, so I want you to just sit with that. If you were to go from I can't to I can, the question is, what mind shift would you need to bring your vision to life? What mind shift would you need to make to bring your vision to life? And it may be shifting from what you put in the first word cloud to what you put into the second word cloud. You would have to shift the mindset of busy is my identity. You would need to shift that rushing around means I'm being productive or effective. What mindset shift would you need to have your vision be real in the world? And I'm aware that for some of you, these questions I may be moving ahead quickly, but I do have to be mindful of the time. And as I said, you will be sent out these questions as well for deeper reflection. So don't worry. If you're feeling a little bit rushed, you will have the questions for you to do this again in your own time. Question 12, what internal story would you need to let go of to create the next chapter in your life? What internal story would you need to let go of to create the next chapter in your life? I was speaking to a woman yesterday. She works in corporate and she wants to have her own business. And yet for her, it isn't possible. And she is unhappy where she currently is. And in that unhappiness and that disconnect of where she is now, it's really hard for her to see how she could possibly create this business that she wants to have in her community. You know, for her being in lockdown, she's realized how connected she wants to be to her family and to make a difference within her community. And there were beliefs that she needed to identify before she could then start to pick those beliefs apart. And by the time we finished speaking, she suddenly had a little bit of a glimmer of hope that actually maybe her vision was doable. She didn't want to be an astronaut. You know, she didn't want to do anything ridiculous. She wanted to have her own business. But for her, she had inner beliefs that meant that she couldn't do that. So we all have internal beliefs that stop us from believing that we can carry out our vision. And I'm asking you to work out what yours are. Next question. What would you need to stop doing to move towards this life that you want for yourself? What would you need to stop doing? You may need to stop people pleasing. You may need to, you know, it's interesting. I have been working with a few clients who are, you know, who are in their 40s, in their 50s, and they've just realized that they need to stop taking on the life that their parents want them to have, which is a big realization to have. What is it that you need to stop doing to move towards the life that you want? Stop needing the approval of others. Which leads to the next question. What do you need to start doing? And I know already, some of you I know on this call, some of you I don't know, but I also know that for many, one of the things when we start saying no creates a lot of space for us. It may be no. That may be the only thing that you need to start doing, is starting to say no. And just the last question in this section, we're not at the end yet, but we're coming there. The last question in this section is, what commitment would you need to make to yourself to hold this vision? What commitment would you need to make to yourself to hold this vision? I will give you a little bit of my, the work that I do around commitment. And this kind of speaks into Tara sharing that I'm an endurance runner. So an endurance runner where people that run marathon distance of 42 kilometers and over. Now, before I take on a race, I have to make sure I'm 100% committed, because I know what it will take to do the training. I know that it means I spend time away from my family at weekends, and, you know, I have teenagers, so it's quite nice to be away from the family sometimes, so that's fine. But I know that it means we're a one-car family by intentional choice because of the world that we live in. So I need to make sure that I'm willing to do what it's going to take. I know that it's going to hurt in the training. I know I'm going to be tired sometimes. I know there's a risk of injury. So I'm very, very intentional about the races I choose to do. And then once I decide I'm committed, that is it. So commitment isn't, I will do it until it gets difficult. Commitment isn't, I will do it, but I need to have support from my mum. Commitment isn't anything outside of a promise that you make to yourself. Now, we all need support to carry out our visions and our commitments. There's no doubt about that. But commitment is, I am in this until the end. So what would you need to what would you need to commit to hold to your vision? And I want to share with you, before I ask you the last two questions, a woman that I met, actually I've met her a couple of times now, Maggie, at Mpigi, which is one of the epicenters in Uganda. And for those of you that don't know, that are new to the Hunger Project, the epicenter is a building that the Hunger Project with the village partners create as kind of like the local town hall. And within, but different than our town halls, because within the epicenter, there needs to be everything. There needs to be a place for health workers to be, for a school, for a big hall for festivals and celebrations and committee meetings, and also a seed bank. But it's something that the Hunger Project partner with village partners to create. And there's a woman called Maggie, and she heard of the work of the Hunger Project within her village, and she realized that she wanted to contribute to the epicenter, because the village partners have to contribute money towards the epicenter. And she realized that she didn't really have much to give, but she knew she was strong. So she decided that she could carry water every single day. So Maggie decided, with an 8-month baby strapped to her back, that she would carry 7 large jerry cans of water a day, which meant 170 litres of water every single week. And that was how she was going to make money. And she received a very small wage. And with that wage, she contributed to the epicenter. She then realized the next vision she created for herself was that she wanted her children to go to the school. And so she put her children into the school. And then Maggie realized that she started taking these actions towards her vision. She actually became a teacher and is a teacher. And Maggie has now empowered 98% of the women within her village to be literate. So she started with a small vision of, how can I contribute to my community by working to get money so I can contribute to the epicenter. And through that, she has found her vision and her purpose, which is to teach. And Maggie is incredible. She is such a force for good. And she's the sort of woman that when she walks around, every single child follows her, and every adult. She's like a magnet for possibility. So Maggie took very small actions. Actually, if you've carried a jerry can, they're heavy. So she took a very small action based on what she knew she could do. So now the questions are around actions. What 3 actions would you need to take first to carry out your vision? What 3 actions would you need to take first to carry out your vision in the next phase? Now, the actions aren't always as big as we think they are. Sometimes it's a conversation with someone. It may be a difficult conversation, but it is a conversation. Sometimes it's sending the email. Sometimes it's, I think someone shared about having more of a voice in the world, and if they're within business, or, it may be I need to do those posts on LinkedIn or on Instagram. It's not always, I'm going to run a marathon. And anyway, running a marathon, that is not the first action that you take. You don't go and run the marathon, because then you'd never run another marathon ever again in your life. So what are the first 3 actions that you would need to do to have this turn out, this vision that you're creating for yourself? And the final question, because even though somebody said about being reasonable expectations, and I said, no, let's be unreasonable, we also want to set ourselves up to succeed. Now, when I say let's be unreasonable, it's because I do believe that sometimes we're a little bit too reasonable. And when we look at people that have achieved great things, not just in the world that we know of, but people that achieve really small things, is because they looked at what was normal, and they looked at what was reasonable, and decided that it wasn't okay, that what has always been reasonable is no longer reasonable. But in terms of our visions and our goals, we do need to set ourselves up for success, because setting ourselves up to success is a really great place to start. So you have 3 actions. So the final question to set you up for success is, what will be the first action that you will take? Just one. For Maggie, it was carrying 2 jerry cans. That was the first action. And then she repeated that action again and again and again. What is the first action that you need to take to move towards your vision? And I'm going to ask people to put into the chat box, not necessarily what the vision is, but just what is the first action, so we can have an idea, because the actions are going to be different for everybody. So what are the actions that you need to take? Do a daily online live yoga practice, 20 minutes. Fantastic action. It's measurable. That's also important for your action, that it's measurable. Tell myself that I can. Find my why and work until I feel it. Great. Highly recommend Simon Sinek's book for looking for why. Have a conversation with my partner tonight. Fantastic. Very clear, and it's measurable, and it's time-based. Have a conversation with my partner tonight. What are other people's actions that they are going to take? Create and design new project around new leadership in ending hunger. Fantastic. Nice one. Great one, Rick. And Rick is a very, very well respected member of the Hunger Project community, and it does not surprise me that that is your action, Rick. Dolly, help someone who needs, make someone smile, even if it's on the road, just a simple smile. What a beautiful action. I think everyone should add that action. Everyone can add Dolly's action, okay? Everyone has to smile at someone today. And what else? What else do we have? I love this group. You are all my people. That's beautiful, Kitty. That's great. So, well, how much time do we have? We have 5 minutes. I know that every single, and I want everyone to finish on time because I know this is a work day for everyone. I would love to take questions. Everyone said, seriously, love this. Wish we could do this every month. So good. That's so nice. I have an action for all of you. Okay. This is a Hunger Project platform. The Hunger Project is based on fundraising. I hope that you have got everything that you came for today. And I'm going to invite you to take another action. The Hunger Project currently have a project called Stay In. I need to get this, make sure I get this right. Stay In, Reach Out. And I'm going to give you some numbers, okay? The coffee that you would buy in a week would supply food for 1 month for an Indian family. Okay, the coffee that you would buy for 1 month would buy a food parcel for one family in India for a month. I was on one of the Hunger Project calls where Rushi spoke, and as soon as they had lockdown in India, 130 million people made it back to their villages, were on a pilgrimage back home with no social distancing and no hand sanitizer and none of the things that we take for granted. Obviously, we know that we have a lot in the Western world. And it's actually going to be, I know these other countries, Sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, that are going to really suffer through this pandemic. If you could donate the amount of money that you would spend on a coffee for a week, then you would buy a food parcel for a month. There's going to be a link going up soon for this. And the other thing as well is that if one coffee will buy a tippy tap. And a tippy tap is kind of a manually operated tap that can be installed in the villages, that the villagers install themselves. I've actually used a tippy tap many, many times. And that allows for villagers and the families to be able to use, to wash their hands. They don't necessarily have the sanitizer, but they have soap and they can wash their hands. Okay, so this is a tippy tap on the screen here. So that little boy is using the tippy tap. It's very simple. You put your foot on a lever, it tips the bottle over, and then in there is some soap and some water. So what I'm asking you to do, my action today, is for you to take this action as well in the next 24 hours, because I know that people have good intentions and then life happens. So the action I'm inviting you to take for the Stay In Reach Out campaign is to go to this link after we finish today and to donate the amount that you would spend on coffee for 1 day, or even better, the amount that you would spend on coffee for a week, so that you can give a food parcel to a family in India through this pandemic. We are running out of time. So thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It has been an absolute gift to be with people that really wanted to reflect on what they have got from this COVID instead of with my teenagers. I'm sure Tara's going to share how you can reach out to me if you choose to. I agree with Kitty. You are all my people, and it has been an absolute pleasure to spend this time with you. And over to Tara.
Kemi, thank you so much for that session today. I think from the look of the chat, I'm not the only one who got lots out of today. And so thank you so much for leading us through that, and also just creating that energy for us. I think for myself, definitely, these are some conversations I've been having with people, or just round and round in my head. And it's good to have the chance to actually verbalize it or write it down and share it with others. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to everyone who's joined us. And I think, as Kemi said, participating so enthusiastically. As you know, that's the thing that makes or breaks the success of this. So thank you so much for sharing and being so open. I think people really, even just sharing what first action you're going to take now gives each of us, I know for myself, like a glimmer of what is this next phase that we're all going to create together and have it be something that we all flourish in. So I think if we look back at where we started in that word cloud, with busy being number one of what was pre-COVID, and connected being what we're all looking to create in this next phase, I think we need more of that. And it's so wonderful that all of you feel that way, and we do invite you, as Kemi said, to invest in our Stay In Reach Out campaign if you can. That is one way of us staying connected to you, but also for you to be connected to the global community, all the people around the world who, like you, are wanting connection and are wanting to shape a world that works for everyone. So we are going to do some more of these sessions over the coming weeks and months. So please do keep an eye out in your inbox for those, and on our social media as well. We will send you an email with the link to today. So as Kemi said, you can continue mulling and pondering on these questions, and we'll include a link to Kemi in that email so that you can reach out to her if you like. And we'd love to hear from you as you ponder on these things a bit more. Please do get in touch and let us know what is the vision that you're creating and what actions are you taking to achieve it. So thank you so much for being with us today, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Kemi. Thanks, everybody. So great to have you with us.